There are hard ideas, all right, and I'm going to be pushing for the next 6 months. These are not popular. Most of you are not going to like it, but I don't give a fuck, okay? I am the main character. My life is the main character, or something, I guess. I feel like every single thing online now is understandable through the lens of what is it like to be a streamer or a YouTuber, and that is how the world works now. I don't know why it ended up this way, but I think that's what we have convened on. So I think that you have to analyze politics right now as such, okay? One of the things that means is understanding, all right? This is, in my opinion, a moral fight, but it's an optically effective one as well, as long as you frame it correctly, all right? When I'm fighting with somebody online, I've always said, if you want to roll in the mud, then we can roll in the mud. I used to enjoy rolling in the mud a lot. I don't as much right now, but I can still do it, and probably better than you can, okay? Because I am from the mud. That is from whence I came, all right? If somebody wants to go in on my politics, I'm going to go in on your politics. Somebody wants to bring up my past, like my gaming stuff or whatever, well, then I'll dig up your past for whatever you did for work. And if somebody wants to go in on my family, well, then I'll go in on your family. Not only do I think that's fair from my end, I also will respect the same from the other end. The most recent example of this being, I think I talked shit about Tectone's dad or whatever. I don't remember what the thing was. And then he came back and he started talking shit about my kid. And I think my audience got mad at that. But in my mind, I think I went after his dad first. I understand I'm attacking my kid. It makes sense, right? This is a tit for tat. It's fair. Okay, I get it. Like, you understand that you sound like every single soy fuck, like non-binary LGBT person. Like, why do people have to make homophobic jokes all day? And why do people have to joke about blah, blah, blah? And you're like, dude, it's just a joke. Get over it. Dude, why do you care so much? But now when it's about kids that aren't even... You're not even related to these people. What? Like, I don't understand. What? Were they future potential victims for your dad? Some people have a hard time understanding this. I don't care. I'm going to lean more into that I think this is a totally fair way that you keep things on the same level, match your opponent's energy, both in tone, like if they're shouting, then fucking shout, and also in types of attacks. Number one. Number two, okay? If you bring things onto the battlefield, whether it's for attack or defense, okay, those things will take damage, and they should, because they're on the battlefield. That's what they're there for. Do not bring something out as a weapon if you don't want people to treat it as such, all right? What does that mean? That means that if you are a grieving widow and you want to make a statement about your dead husband, that's totally fine. I don't think anybody should do anything about that. But if you're going to weaponize that grief to recruit for your political movement, then it's all on the table for fighting over.
He loved what he did.
So this is the first out of a total 11 of fake cries.
Too many people are going to be silenced by this idea of you can't make fun of a grieving widow. If you think making fun of a grieving widow is disgusting, I kind of agree with you. But weaponizing her guilt to build your political movement is more disgusting. You're the one that is deploying her to the battlefield, so now she can get... You know, her grief can be attacked on the battlefield, all right? I'm only saying this because this is going to be a huge talking point. I had it this morning. The Pure show was absolutely fucking horrible. It was me and Piers Morgan, who is totally on the other side of this, and Anna Kasparian, kill me, and Andrew Wilson, kill me, although they did bring on at least, Jack Posobiec, fucking Quinta, kill me. What a horrible fucking panel.
Destiny, you've been quite active on social media since Charlie Kirk's death. When Erica Kirk posted Charlie's coffin, you responded, she tagged him, brackets, crying face emojis.
And filling in for some...
This here is insane. Also, there's the third thing I've got to be pushing. None of this is normal, and all of us need to collectively realize how unbelievably insane the entire environment that we live in right now is, okay? This is the Vice President of the United States, the day after we've flown the flag at half-mast, and I think had, I don't know what the exact, how you describe it, but apparently, can somebody tell me, was Charlie Kirk, like, the casket was escorted by military or whatever, and Charlie Kirk, or not Charlie Kirk, and J.D. Vance as well? What the fuck? This guy was a political commentator. There is no reason why he should be held up like he was some, military hero or honor guard or public official. This is insane, okay? Now, it would be helpful for us if we could compare this to a recent assassination, and thankfully we can. Well, I say thankfully, that's kind of a dark way to put it, but Melissa Hortman and her husband were state legislators that were assassinated by a political hitman in Minnesota. And then he went right to another house and he shot a husband and a wife who were also politicians, or one of them was, the husband was, and then had more Democratic politicians to kill. No talk publicly about any of these people. Donald Trump was asked for comment. Donald Trump said Mike Waltz was a pussy and he didn't want to talk to him. That's it. And then they lied about it. They said the guy was an employee of Mike Waltz. Some people spread the conspiracy that it was a Mike Waltz plan, okay? We didn't see any of that. These were for elected lawmakers, okay? We didn't see any of this insanity. So something that we've tried to do too much and that Republicans don't do, and I think this is a mistake, is sometimes we are scared to say what's right or wrong because it's associated with a certain political movement. And we're scared to take a definitive position on a thing because it might be associated with a political movement. And that causes a very corrosive thing in the mind where we believe that we can't talk about it in certain contexts because it's political. What I mean when I say that is in school, you can't, if you're teaching history or you're talking about some aspect of culture, it's considered rude or inappropriate or improper to tie it into current political things because you want to be relatively apolitical. Apoliticalness is a luxury of somebody not impacted by politics. Depending on how you live in this country, you do not have the luxury of being apolitical. Your history is not apolitical, and your existence on this planet is not apolitical. Definitionally speaking, if you live in a country, you are subject to its politics. There is no such thing as apoliticality. So sometimes people make the mistake of wanting to study history from an unbiased lens, and so they don't want to associate it at all with current or contemporary political stuff. I don't listen to his stuff at all, but I have huge props, mad respect for, is it Dan Carlson? Is he the guy who does the hardcore history? Is that his name? Because he was willing to make some stronger statements about it. I saw that on Twitter. Oh, Dan Carlin. I have respect for that. Too many people are too obsessed with the idea of, I don't want to make this political, so I'm just going to talk about ABC. The Nazis were a political party. That was politics, right? World War II was politics. We made a decision to attack Iran recently. That was politically informed by the current leaders in the United States. The decision to drop nuclear bombs on Japan, that was politics. Our unwillingness to join World War I or World War II until we were essentially attacked first, it was politics. A lot of these decisions that are made are politics. You cannot divorce politics from everything else. You're sanitizing something so extremely to the point of almost saying nothing of value, or at least you're losing so much of the value by doing it. So you have to be very careful of that. Okay, sorry. Is this Vance trying to establish his image as Trump's successor? No, this is the cult establishing ownership over Charlie Kirk and his legacy to cast themselves as victims against the far left who they are blaming the shooting on. This is just like, it's making sure that there is an undoubted ownership over it so that every American can see that Charlie Kirk was part of MAGA and part of the right. And we have the vice president here to be a part of that so that you know that when the radical left attacked us, the 22-year-old white guy who was raised in a Mormon family from the state of Utah, who went to trade school, like all good conservatives do, that the leftists, that when they attacked us, this is who they attacked you. We have lost some fundamental assumptions of how our society used to function.
Is not always detrimental. It also can have a benefit, like politically.
Right after a political assassination?
Well,
like literally in the hours after a political assassination, do you think that's the appropriate time to hash out the crime statistics?
not exactly like.
You need conservatives to be afraid of getting killed when they go to events so that they look to their leadership to turn down the temperature. The issue is right now, they don't feel like there's any fear. Like, I don't know. It's like memes. It's just memes to everybody, I guess. I don't know, bro. I don't know. I don't care. I'm playing video games. Okay, I'm done today. I don't give a fuck. God, it's gonna be so fucking gay if I get killed in the next fucking 2 months of shit. Bro! All the cuck shit out here. Please don't anybody make any actual fucking, the most cucked, weak-ass, fucking bullshit-ass speech. Okay, this is basically the gist of it. Everybody understands this. Where's Jordan Peterson at?
There's a big difference between letting people do something for themselves
I'm not gonna be able to find this
saying
clip.
Men should be dangerous. By dangerous, that implies I should be ready to threaten someone, to hurt somebody.
No, you should be capable of it. But that doesn't mean you should use it. there's nothing to you otherwise. Like if you're not a formidable force, there's no morality in your self-control. If you're incapable of violence, not being violent isn't a virtue. People who teach martial arts know this full well, right? If you learn a martial art, you learn to be dangerous, but simultaneously you learn to control it. Both of those come together. And the combination of that capacity for danger and the capacity for control is what brings about the virtue.
Okay, he's talking about the virtue of being nonviolent here is a little different. There is a lot of Peterson's older presentations, in my opinion, were pretty good. Everything new is garbage. His brain rotted. But basically the idea was that I know that I can't go up to a man and say whatever the fuck I want, right? Or if I do, I know there are certain things I'm gonna say where if I say some certain shit, we're gonna fight, right? I know that. I just know that's gonna be the case, right? Everybody knows this. Every man knows this. Some women learned it the hard way. Sorry, just kidding, half kidding. People know this online when they say shit like, you wouldn't say this in real life, kid. You wouldn't say this in real life, punk, right? Because the idea being that you know that if you say this, some shit's gonna happen. To some level, that's kind of, you could argue that that's kind of toxic. But on another level, there are some guardrails that guide us on socially acceptable behavior. Another argument I'm going to be making a lot, I've made it a little bit, is this idea of a chilling effect. People always talk about chilling effects like they're bad. They're not always bad. Criminal laws and punishments ideally chill some criminal behavior. Certain social conventions or the threat of violence can chill some antisocial or violent behavior. It's not always a bad thing. When I say that people should be afraid, what I mean is that if I were to go into a crowd of people and take out my gun and point it at somebody, I personally would be afraid. I would be afraid that I'm going to get killed because I'm aiming a gun at somebody. That's a good fear to have. I should have that fear because if I'm pointing a gun at somebody, well, I could potentially kill them. I should feel like they could potentially kill me. If somebody loses that fear, if they feel invincible and they're fearless to threaten or enact violence against another party, that's a very bad feeling to have because it leads to more violence for everybody. It's not good. There should always be something in the back of your mind that makes you like, ooh, if I would have wild out right now, if I were to go crazy, I would probably get my ass whipped, okay? Or somebody would kill me, right? That's an okay feeling to have. And having an antisocial, violent person or community in an area where they feel like there is no accountability is not good. It's very bad. It's not good because it makes it worse for everybody. It feels like even after Kirk's death, the pundits aren't scared. Is it just because they feel they can capitalize on it better? I feel like as a grifter, I just take my bag and dip. Well, one, a lot of these guys don't do super public events. Two, people like JD Vance have Secret Service protection. So they've got an entire agency inside the White House that is dedicated to their safety and security. Three, this is kind of the darker version, but they hold a lot of the executive power right now in that if things were to go to, like some kind of full-scale violent conflict, he's the commander-in-chief. President Donald Trump controls the military. So would they invite it? That kind of fighting? I mean, if they were to ever have it, now would be the time to do it, People like Hutch need to understand that Dems need to control the narrative right away while the cement is wet. I feel like he thinks the left is avowing is being heard. Meanwhile, Trump is going after news orgs and media apparatus with lawsuits. Correct. The problem is when people always say, not now, not now, not now. The reason why Republicans say this is because they know that now is the only time that matters. That school shooting that happened on the same day that Charlie Kirk died, no one will ever know anything about that. No one's going to talk about it. It's not going to get immediate. No one cares. That's like literally memory hold. Nobody cares. That's gone. You have a moment in time, especially now, as the moments in time are getting shorter and shorter and shorter because of TikTok, the internet, the news cycles, whatever else, right? Your moments in time where the public attention is captured on a particular topic is very, very, very slim. And Republicans aren't counting on you. Hey, we need a 3-day break. We just had our own guy get shot and killed. Can you guys please all disavow while all of us call for civil war and blame you for it? It's like, okay, that's fair, right? We'll be humans, I guess. And then 3 days later, okay, we need to talk about what's going on your guys' side. What? I don't know. Okay. And then they move to the next thing. It's like, oh, okay. That pattern has played out over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. How many debates do you see me have with people where they roll their eyes when I bring up the Gen 6 stuff and they go, oh my God, you're bringing up Gen 6 again? Bro, we've moved on from that. Moved on from that? Less than a year ago, you guys pardoned every single person associated with it. Also, moved on from that. If we've moved on from that, why the fuck do you still bring up all the violence of BLM? They haven't, and they know they haven't. That's a game that's being played on their end, right? Do you think in this show, are they going to recognize any of the Democrats or lawmakers that said that the violence is unacceptable, that said we need to turn down the rhetoric? Any of them? And number one. Number two, are they going to call on Donald Trump to say that he should call for a cessation in violence, that he should call for both sides to bring down their, I guess, weapons? Did you listen to the critique by Hutch? He said Republicans are losing heart in local elections and that we don't disavow violence to get votes, but because it's the right thing to do to bring down the temperature, even if it's unfair. It doesn't bring down the temperature, number one. Number two, remember my critique on the election. When Republicans say we won huge, okay, they're wrong, all right? However, when Democrats say, well, they barely won, it's not like it was that far off, they're also wrong, okay? Both sides are wrong, but for totally different reasons. Republicans like to act like they have this massive consensus built across the United States and that so many people are in love with Trump and the Republican Party. That's bullshit, okay? They barely won the election. It was a plurality of the popular vote, not even a majority, a plurality of the popular vote. And they happened to win the 7 swing states, but it was with like a 250,000 vote margin, okay? I think across all 7 states. It was like less than 350,000 votes, I think, okay? Now, they present that as a massive majority, but that's not true. Now, on the Democrat side, it might be, and depending on who I'm arguing with, right, I'll say, well, it wasn't a landslide victory. But the reality is that should have been a 48, 49 state landslide to Kamala Harris, right? If a convicted rape, oh shit, I was trying to be hyperbolic, but I realized that applied to Trump. If Hitler came back from the dead and ran in an election against fucking Jesus Christ himself, okay, and Hitler were to lose the election by 1 swing state, you would never walk away from that election feeling like you'd accomplished something good. You would walk away from that election feeling like something is deeply broken and rotted and corroded in your country. And the feeling should be the same for Trump. Like, did Democrats win in 2020? Yes. Was it because Donald Trump, tried to overthrow the country and everything else? Well, no, we didn't even vote on that technically, right? January 6th was after the election, right? Definitionally. We probably won on the inflation stuff in the economy, 2024, when it was time for voters to tell us, how did you feel about all of the illegality? How did you feel about Jan 6? How did you feel about everything else? Well, they said that, I'm sorry, I shouldn't say inflation, on the on COVID-related stuff probably, right? The voters said they didn't care. They didn't give a fuck. So while it might be the case that even if we win the next election, even if we win in 2028, which I still think we will, assuming we still have elections, I still think we're going to win. I think we're going to win midterms pretty well. I think we're going to win the next presidential election pretty hard, I think. It should be deeply concerning that half the country right now is okay with where we're at. And there are two groups that you can criticize here, and both are equally bad, even though some people say the latter is not as bad as the former. You've got the very politically incentivized group, or the very politically involved group who say, oh, well, I know a lot about politics. Like, how the fuck can you support this? Rightfully, those people are condemned. Then you have people say, well, you don't understand, Destiny. A lot of people don't really follow politics that closely. A lot of people don't know about a lot of this shit. I do understand that, and I do know that, and I fully accept that. That's almost worse, right? It can't be the case that 10% of the country is driving us to civil war and the other 90% is just disaffected or disinterested. That's a failure in democracy. Remember, okay, we don't pass down political titles through family name, and we don't have an oligarch or what other type of royal, familial, non-democratic system to install new leadership. Every single person, that means you, that means the crazy dude down the street, that means Elon Musk and Donald Trump, everybody goes to the ballot box and one person has one vote. We all have an equal say on who our next leader is. Democracy is somewhat reliant on the public following at least something related to what's going on in the country, okay? And other people's lives, not even necessarily your own. Maybe it's the millions of people who relied on USAID. Maybe it's people in the country who's relying on funding for future medical research. Maybe it's people in other countries who look to the United States for leadership or guidance on conflict. It could be the people dying in ditches in Ukraine. It could be children dying in Gaza of starvation. Everybody is looking to the U.S. voter for the direction that the United States is going to take in the world. It's not acceptable to say that people are just totally so disconnected that they can't have any mind for it at all. If that is the case, then the experiment for American democracy fails at this point, and then we move to another form of governance, right? We would say at this point, the system is too complicated that the average voter can't be entrusted to responsibly vote for leadership, and you need something different at that point, which might be the case. I think that would be sad, but that might be the case. Maybe this kind of government is untenable in a situation that's this complex. I don't think we're at that case yet. I think that our media environment and our leadership in that environment and our political leaders, I think, can change. But yeah.
I wanted to zoom out with Stephen a little bit and talk about all of the ways that we're trying to figure out how to prevent this festering violence that you see on the far left from becoming even more and more mainstream.
Oh, on the far left. True. Yes, true. Thank God we're here to talk about that.
Before I do that, Stephen, I want to do this with every guest because you're a friend of Charlie's, and one of the things I'm hoping that people get out of this is an understanding for the kind of guy that Charlie was, who he was. And so before I talk to you about what we're doing to try to prevent something like this from happening again, maybe you could just talk about why you love Charlie, what memories you have of him, something that would give our audience a sense of what he was behind the microphone.
A sense of how important he is to the cult and that all of us see ourselves as one unified entity and how humanized this guy is and how demonish or demonic and horrible the left is for attacking him. True. There really should be more damaging penalties for major news networks publishing disinformation, perhaps a leaderboard with a tax rate for each news network corresponding to how much utter nonsense they spewed in such shameless fashion. The problem with stuff like this is because people are both siding so hard, the left both sides because they believe in it, and the right weaponizes both sides to attack the left. The problem is that when you have fact checkers that come down harder on one side, everybody just assumes that they must be biased. Right? This is why we got rid of fact checking. Okay, we can't accept the fact that COVID wasn't created in a bioweapons lab to infect us. We can't accept the fact that maybe mRNA vaccines were actually a miraculous improvement in science and not something that the Jews or some other nefarious pharmaceutical company pushed on us to poison us and kill us. We can't accept the fact that maybe Russia did have a massive hand in engaging in foreign fucking psyops and shit into our domestic politics. Maybe it is the fact that climate change is probably a real thing and it's not caused by Jewish weather machines in the Gulf of America that are causing hurricanes to hit red states. We just can't have... The problem with fact checking is if you would bring out any fact checker right now, it would obliterate the Conservative Party because they live in delusion. How can you introduce any kind of fact checking without the Republican Party immediately revolting? There's a reason why Mark Zuckerberg went on, was it Joe Rogan, where he made the announcement that they got rid of fact checking, or this might have just been a Twitter video that he put out on his own.
Hey everyone, I want to talk about something important today because it's time to get back to our roots around free expression on Facebook and Instagram. I started building social media to give people a voice. I gave a speech at Georgetown 5 years ago about the importance of protecting free expression, and I still believe this today. But a lot has happened over the last several years. There's been widespread debate.
Free speech, remember, there's several things about this. One, freedom of expression is the idea that the government can't criminalize behavior, okay? Now, you could extend that out more to we ought to have a vigorous public debate about policy and stuff. That's fine as well. Freedom of speech is not some deontological good that in and of itself, is a thing to be protected. Freedom of speech in a democracy is considered good and vital because from the freedom of speech, from people who can criticize the government or speak their truth about whatever social issues, from that, we engage in a dialogue that produces good for society. You would never say that freedom of speech is good if a bunch of people with megaphones were standing around every single other person screaming into it so nobody could hear each other, right? Freedom of speech is only a good, cherished thing in the US because of the outcomes that we feel that it produces. If freedom of speech just led to constant noise and the inability for people to govern themselves, then that country would fall and fail. And then you would necessarily move to some other system. This idea of an unlimited... I don't think we have an unlimited right for literally anything. We don't have an unlimited right even for guns. We don't have an unlimited right even for speech, right? Conspiracy is a type of crime. Nobody wants to talk about responsibilities when it comes to freedom of speech. They only want to talk about having an unlimited amount of it so that people on the right or some alternative media people can abuse the fuck out of it to lie to you.
About potential...
That's not freedom of speech. It's just the freedom to lie is what these people generally advocate for.
Several years.
That's why you're seeing now the right leading probably the largest mass doxing campaign to try to get people fired from their jobs. A lot of these people... Somebody was sending me this shit. I was looking through earlier ones. A lot of these people who were literally just saying that they were literally just like quoting Charlie Kirk's speech and stuff. They weren't even like glorifying his death. They were just talking about how they disagreed with the shit that he said. Then they're trying to get them fired from their jobs and excised from their communities.
There's been widespread debate about potential harms from online content. Governments and legacy media have pushed to censor more and more. A lot of this is clearly political.
Wait. Destiny, I agree the right is more perpetrators of political violence, but the issue is the left is by far more okay with political violence. This is why we get stuck in the discourse. Everybody is okay with political violence. Again, people use politics sometimes to mean the thing that I don't like or don't care about. Everybody in this country, at the very least, 100% of the Conservative Party is okay with political violence. My guess is on the left, it's close to 100% as well. Now, I know there was some poll going around earlier showing like what percentage of people are okay with political violence. And I think for conservatives, I want to say it was like 20% said they were okay with it. That's just because they were too stupid to understand the question. Because if you ask conservatives, hey, Why do we have a Second Amendment? They would say, oh, well, one of the most important reasons is it's a function that allows us to fight against a tyrannical government. That's political violence. And every conservative basically believes in the right to own firearms, partly as a restrictive measure against an over-encumbered government that's trying to take away your freedom. So everybody, to some extent, believes in political violence.
Push to censor more and more. So we're going to get back to our roots and focus on reducing mistakes, simplifying our policies, and restoring free expression on our platforms. More specifically, here's what we're going to do. First, we're going to get rid of fact checkers and replace them with community notes similar to X, starting in the US. After Trump first got elected in 2016, the legacy media wrote nonstop about how misinformation was a threat to democracy.
They were right.
We tried in good faith to address those concerns.
They did.
Without becoming the arbiters of truth. But the fact checkers have just been too politically biased. And
they are politically biased because one side is the one that's engaged in more lies. You have to be able to address the truth. How is it that your system that you create can address one side lying more without being accused of simply being politically biased, right? If reality favors one side more, what are you supposed to do there? Nobody's ever confronted with this question.
Have just been too politically biased and have destroyed more trust than they've created, especially in the US. So over the next couple of months, we're going to phase in a more comprehensive community notes system.
You want to talk about reality having an unfortunate liberal bias? Look at how much they keep trying to mindfuck Grok and how much Grok keeps spitting out a liberal reality every single time conservatives try to queue it up for questioning.
The thing about anger is that unfocused anger or blind rage is not a productive emotion.
Right.
But focused anger, righteous anger, directed for a just cause is one of the most important agents of change in human history.
I've said this before, and he's absolutely fucking right. And the conservatives are so good at directing their anger towards effective ends. They're so good at doing this. Occupy Wall Street did nothing because what the fuck were we mad about? Corporations are people? What the fuck does that even mean? BLM and all those protests were largely failed because why? What the fuck was the anger directed at? Abolish the police? The fuck does that even mean? What are we even going to do with that? And even the places that tried some of the defunding all fucking failed on it, right? The left, partially because of the leftists, the socialists and the communists who try to hijack so much of the conversation, their goal, their end is anger for anger's sake. That's all they want. They don't care about policy. That's why they don't try to win any elections. And then liberals somehow have allowed that to get hijacked, probably because they're trying to live up to some standard.
Amen.
And we are going to channel all of the anger that we have over the organized campaign that led to this assassination to uproot and dismantle these terrorist networks.
Number
so
one
let me explain what that means.
What's the first thing?
You got 30 seconds. Be quick, Stephen.
The organized doxing campaigns. The
organized doxing campaigns. The largest organized doxing campaign that I was aware of prior to the Charlie Kirk murder. Does anybody know who it was? Libs of TikTok. Yes. Libs of TikTok would post individual people's TikToks or Instagram accounts or social medias whenever she could to try to get these people kicked out of their jobs or fired or excommunicated from their fucking community or whatever, right? And now afterwards, it's this, I don't know, what is it, like Charlie's Murderers or something.com is this massive list of people who have said mean things about Charlie Kirk now.
Organized riots, the organized street violence, the organized
Be quick, Stephen.
the organized doxing campaigns, the organized riots,
the organized riots. The largest organized riot in U.S. history was the January 6th insurrection. Donald Trump provided the motive. He riled these people up for a year, saying that there was going to be election fraud. He provided the means. Okay, he invited them all to a particular place, encouraged them all to come and work with organizations because it was the one that hosted the speech was the Women for Trump or whatever. And then he facilitated on the day of, he gave them the direction. They went and they did exactly what he wanted. The idea that he's trying to sell you here, I don't know if you guys are aware of this or not, but the talking point on the right is that all of these riots and protests, the big ones, are all funded and organized by George Soros. Like, I laugh about it on stream and then you guys laugh, but I hope you're aware that when they say things like paid protesters, they legitimately mean that. Like, if I were to call my mom and ask her, Mom, where do you think most of the protesters come from? She would say, I think that the Clinton Foundation and George Soros pay them to show up. These are mercenary protesters. They get paid to go from place to place and protest. None of it is real. That's what these people think. When he says organized protest, that's what he's talking about.
Organized street violence, the organized
Be quick, Stephen.
the organized doxing campaigns, the organized riots, the organized street violence, the organized campaigns of dehumanization, vilification, posting people's addresses, combining that with message.
Dehumanization, vilification, calling Obama, calling the Clintons, socialists and communists year after year after year after year. They've been doing this for my entire life. That they've done this, okay? Posting people's addresses and calling for, like, why do you think Trump talks about the names of the judges in his cases or the names of, he even got, I don't think he got contempt. I think he got chastised for it and threatened for it. But when Donald Trump was saying that the daughter of the judge of his case was a radical or whatever, look, what do you think this is for? They think Patriot Front is an FBI psyop. Oh, wait. So the meme is that when Kash Patel becomes the head of the FBI, that liberals will stop psyoping. Well-known liberal James Comey. Like, remember, even if it's just like you have to understand how unbelievable everything is. You have to understand how unbelievable everything is. Remember my Rob Noor debate. Crossfire Hurricane, remember what Tulsi Gabbard and the Republicans are trying to sell us now. Crossfire Hurricane and all of the Russiagate stuff was Obama intentionally trying to nuke Donald Trump's chances of being the president. However, none of this was publicly announced until after the election. Meanwhile, James Comey was the head of the FBI, who was also rigging it against Trump, but he announced Hillary Clinton's email investigation and updates and conclusions like 3 different times publicly and kept this in the media for months, right? Like, how, in what world was the FBI ever helping Hillary Clinton win that election? But they've any fact, anything can be spun when you're constantly attacking. We're constantly telling people to think anything can be spun to believe anything, to make the people believe whatever they want to believe, whatever you want them to believe. Yeah.
And while our side of the aisle certainly has its crazies, it is a statistical fact that most of the lunatics in American politics today are proud members of the far left. After Charlie died, one of his friends and one of our senior White House staffers had left-leaning operatives in his neighborhood passing out leaflets telling people what he looked like and where he lived, encouraging neighbors to harass him or, God forbid, to do worse.
Leaflets? Harassment? What about Shapiro's home being firebombed? What actually happened with that? I never actually followed that. Was it actually, or did somebody just like set a tree on fire? I don't actually know about. I didn't follow this one that closely. Arrested the man they say intentionally set fire to the governor's residence early Sunday morning while Governor Josh Shapiro and his family were asleep inside. They charged him with attempted murder, terrorism, aggravated arson, and other crimes. He turned himself into police later on Sunday. Investigators say Ballmer told them that he'd been harboring hatred towards Shapiro and would have beaten the governor with a hammer if he'd encountered him during the break-in at the Harrisburg residence. What does that sound like? Oh, holy shit! Oh, I thought this was like a fire in the yard. Okay, wait, damn. Wait, what? And look, thank God Shapiro gave the cuck answer. No offense to him. I mean, I understand, but this type of violence is not okay. This kind of violence is becoming far too common in our society, Shapiro said. And I don't give a damn if it's coming from one particular side or the other, directed at one particular party or another, or one particular person or another. It is not okay, and it has to stop. We have to be better than this. Destiny, honest question. Why didn't we follow these attacks on the left more closely? Was it because they were regional, not national? Or some other worse reason? Because conservatives set the media agenda. We talk about what conservatives want us to talk about. So that's why we spend most of our time talking about trans people and whatever the fuck else. Investigators say Ballmer accessed the governor's residence grounds by climbing a perimeter fence on the south side of the property. According to a probable cause affidavit written by the Pennsylvania State Police, Ballmer was then seen on surveillance video approaching the piano room on the south side of the residence. He broke a window in the piano room and threw an incendiary device inside, authorities say, before breaking an adjacent window, climbing through it into the residence and throwing a second incendiary device into the dining room. Police say both rooms suffered significant fire damage. Ballmer was then spotted on surveillance video, kicking open a dining room exit door, climbing over the same fence he used to enter the property and running away. In a subsequent interview, investigators say Ballmer told them he hated Shapiro and was aware that Shapiro and others might be in the house at this time of the attack. When police asked Ballmer what he would have done if he'd encountered Shapiro, he advised he would have beaten him with his hammer, officers said. Oh, so like he brought one with him? Ballmer allegedly told police that he walked for about an hour to the governor's residence, roughly 3 miles from the address listed for him in the affidavit, and that he created the homemade Molotov cocktails used in the attack by pouring gasoline from a lawnmower into empty Heineken beer bottles.
We do know that this attack was targeted. We don't know the person's specific motive yet, but we do know a few truths. First, this type of violence is not okay.
This was his own place that got attacked. Look at the difference in candor. Look at the difference in rhetoric and messaging. His own place, right? We don't know much about him yet, compared to the fuckface, whatever, Sam Cocksucker, or whatever the fuck the guy is in Utah. Leftist trans bulgy-wulgy ideology, the biggest bulgy-wulgy we've ever seen.
Is not
radicalized by the furriest of tales.
Okay.
What year did this happen? This happened like half a year ago. How long ago was this? It was this year, wasn't it? We don't know about anything happening in our country right now. This is unhinged shit. This was 6 months ago. The shooting of the lawmakers in Minnesota was around the same time? In June? So 2 months later. This story was gaslit as fuck in Pennsylvania. I was told for months the guy was a socialist because of a few posts on Instagram. The community that pushed it wouldn't even acknowledge that they were wrong at all.
We can only have it with people who acknowledge that political violence is unacceptable, and when we work to dismantle the institutions that...
Like, I love that this is my message, right? Because they know that it's true, right? But they lie about the facts, and then they sell this true message to their side. You can't make peace with people that want to kill you, right? You can't do that. You can't, well, I mean, you can assume it, but they have to want to come together to do it, right? They know that. I don't know why our side doesn't realize this.